When we look at the wealthiest people in the world, it often feels like they are playing an entirely different game than the rest of us. We work long hours, try to save what we can, pay our bills, and maybe put a little aside for the future. Yet somehow, no matter how hard we work, the rich seem to grow richer while everyone else runs in place. The truth is, it isn't only about hard work or intelligence. It's about a hidden system designed to protect wealth once it has been accumulated and to multiply it across generations. The average person doesn't see this system because it isn't advertised. It isn't taught in schools, and it certainly isn't explained in financial literacy classes. But it is very real, and if you peel back the layers of modern capitalism, you begin to see how deeply embedded it is in our lives. The system begins with ownership. While most people trade their time for money, the wealthy focus on owning assets. Assets generate cash flow, appreciate over time, and can be leveraged to access even more money. The wealthy don't just buy things, they buy things that produce. Real estate that pays rent, businesses that generate profits, stocks that pay dividends, intellectual property that collects royalties. Ownership is the cornerstone of the hidden system because it shifts wealth away from dependence on wages and into streams of income that work even while the person sleeps. The irony is that the average worker spends a lifetime chasing raises and promotions, while the wealthy structure their lives so that their money works harder than they do. But ownership alone isn't enough. The system is fortified by another powerful tool: leverage. This is one of the most misunderstood concepts in finance. The average person fears debt, but the wealthy embrace it strategically. They borrow not to consume, but to invest. They use other people's money, through banks, through credit, through investors to expand their holdings. When a billionaire buys a skyscraper, it is not with their own savings. It is with borrowed money that is secured against the very asset they are buying. The risk is spread out, the potential return is multiplied, and the wealth grows faster than any paycheck could. Meanwhile, ordinary people are told to avoid debt entirely, missing the distinction between destructive debt and productive debt. The hidden system is also shielded by the tax code. The wealthy understand that taxes are the single largest expense most people will ever face. They do not simply accept tax bills, they structure their lives to minimize them. Capital gains are taxed at lower rates than wages. Dividends receive preferential treatment. Real estate investors deduct appreciation, even when the property grows in value. Business owners write off expenses, travel, even meals. The wealthy use trusts, offshore accounts, and foundations to legally protect assets from taxation, while also shaping public policy through lobbying to keep these structures intact. The average worker, on the other hand, has their taxes deducted before they even see their paycheck, with little room for adjustment. The system isn't fair, but it is legal, and the wealthy know exactly how to exploit it. Another layer of the system lies in institutions that few people ever hear about. Asset managers like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street control trillions of dollars, quietly owning significant shares of the world's largest corporations. Insurance companies pool capital from millions of policyholders and reinvest it into global markets. Hedge funds and private equity firms buy entire industries, restructure them, and sell them off for profit. To the average person, these are abstract concepts, but for the wealthy, they are everyday tools. These institutions act as multipliers of wealth, moving vast sums across borders, industries, and currencies. They don't think in terms of household budgets. They think in terms of capital flows, interest rates, and market dynamics that most people never study. Education, or rather, the lack of it, is also part of the system. Schools rarely teach financial literacy beyond the basics of saving, budgeting, or balancing a checkbook. Students are prepared to become employees, not owners. The real knowledge about how money works is often passed down within wealthy families, through mentors, or through elite networks that gatekeep access. Generational wealth is maintained because the children of the wealthy grow up, surrounded by the language of money, by the connections that open doors, and by the understanding that wealth is something to be managed and multiplied, not simply spent. For the average family, financial struggles are passed down instead, creating cycles of debt, scarcity, and limited opportunity. Then there is mindset, perhaps the most invisible part of the hidden system. The wealthy see money as a tool, not a prize. They view it as leverage to create more opportunities, more influence, more growth. They take calculated risks, knowing that money in motion multiplies, while money sitting idle depreciates. The average person is taught to fear risk, to prioritize safety, to avoid losses at all costs. But the wealthy know that wealth is built on risk management, not risk avoidance. They diversify across industries and borders, turning volatility into opportunity. This mindset shift, combined with structural advantages, keeps them far ahead of the curve. The media also plays its role in keeping the system hidden. Stories about billionaire lifestyles, yachts, mansions, exotic vacations or distractions. They make wealth look like a matter of luck, genius, or extravagance, rather than a system that can be studied and replicated. What doesn't make headlines are the tax strategies, the corporate structures, the trusts, the foundations, and the boardroom deals that quietly protect fortunes. By focusing on the glamour, the media masks the machinery that sustains wealth, and so the average person admires the surface while never learning the substance. Technology has added another dimension to the system. Algorithms trade billions of dollars in milliseconds. AI systems predict market shifts and reallocate assets before humans can react. High-frequency trading firms exploit microscopic advantages to generate massive profits. These technologies are expensive, complex, and inaccessible to ordinary investors. But to the wealthy, they are simply new tools in the arsenal. The hidden system evolves with technology, staying always one step ahead of the public's understanding. And yet, perhaps the most remarkable thing about this hidden system is how invisible it remains to most people. We are taught to admire hard work, to chase higher salaries, to save diligently. These are not bad habits, but they are not the habits that build generational wealth. The rules of the game are not written in school textbooks. They are written in the tax code, in financial markets, in corporate law, and in the minds of those who already play at the highest levels. As a result, most people work within a system that was never designed to make them rich. But once you begin to see it, you cannot unsee it. You realize that the wealthiest families in history, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Waltons, Bezoses, did not simply stumble into fortune. They mastered the system, or in some cases, they built it themselves. They turned capital into empires, and then they passed down not only the money but the knowledge of how to sustain it. That knowledge is the real inheritance, the invisible blueprint that ensures wealth doesn't just last for a lifetime but stretches across centuries. So what can be done with this knowledge? For the ordinary person, the first step is awareness. The hidden system thrives on invisibility. Once you recognize its patterns: ownership, leverage, tax strategy, institutional power, generational transfer, and mindset, you can begin to play the game differently. You may not be able to command trillions, but you can begin to shift from wages to assets, from consumer debt to productive debt, from ignorance to literacy. You can start small, but the principle is the same. Wealth grows when it is structured, protected, and multiplied. And this brings us back to the original question. Why do the rich keep getting richer? Because they are not playing the same game as everyone else. They are not trapped in the cycle of wages and expenses. They are operating in a system designed to reward those who understand it and penalize those who don't. It is not magic, it is not luck, and it is not always fair. But it is real, and until more people begin to see it, the divide will only grow. The hidden system that keeps them rich is not a conspiracy. It is a framework. It is an architecture of ownership, leverage, law, technology, and mindset. It is visible to those who know where to look, and invisible to those who don't. And once you understand that, you realize that wealth is not simply about working harder, but about working smarter within the structures that already exist. The question is whether you will remain a spectator, or whether you will begin to learn the rules of the game